For anyone who has played even one Yakuza game, you will know that the idea of Kamurocho taking centre stage for a more grounded, realistic episode sounds downright ridiculous. The Yakuza series is brilliant. It excels in many areas. Great combat, unique and compelling characters, along with an entertaining, densely packed open world, provide the formula to this series' increasing popularity and undeniable success. A cohesive, coherent and grounded story though, aside from the absolutely brilliant prequel in Yakuza 0, such traits are rarely found in a Yakuza script. It was recently announced that going forward, the Yakuza series would be sticking with the turn-based combat system found in Like a Dragon. This change has been for the most part met with positivity, but it does still feel weird, in some ways, for the series to be distancing itself from one of the aspects that seems so fundamental to what Yakuza is, the wacky, cartoony beat-em-up style of gameplay. Thankfully, Ryu ga Gotoku Studio, I've pretty much got that spot on definitely, isn't completely abandoning this beloved system. Judgement, or Judge Eyes as known in Japan, a recent spin-off series set in the same universe, is set to have a sequel release this September called Lost Judgment. Going forward, this new IP will be carrying on the legacy of Yakuza's combat system. This recent development led to me reminiscing about my experience with Judgment, and having carved out a pretty awesome Yakuza audience on this channel, I wanted to speak about a game that all series fans must play. Welcome to the Gaming Conversation. We make regular gaming critiques, investigation and discussion videos, so subscribe if you haven't already. This video will discuss many aspects of Judgment, but I will not be talking about any specific spoilers. Anyway, without any further intermissions, let's find out, does Judgment do enough to carve out its own unique identity within the wider Yakuza tapestry? If you ever question what a Yakuza Ace Attorney crossover might look like, Judgment might just be the answer that leaves you with a whole lot more questions. Judgment is a spin-off title from the Yakuza series that shares both some similarities as well as some very noticeable differences with the beloved mainline franchise. The game follows former lawyer Takayuki Yagami, who now works as a freelance detective in the fictional Tokyo district of Kamurocho. Unsurprisingly, given the nature of Yagami's work and the infamous setting, he soon finds himself on the trail of an elusive serial killer. Yagami is a complex character, written with far more nuance than most video game protagonists. His modest apartment, lackadaisical attitude, and questionable Yakuza connections are often contrasted with his past as a lawyer. The dichotomy between Yagami's past and present is intriguing, and without spoiling anything, the game does a really fantastic job of hinting at future plot points. In comparison to other Yakuza leads, Yagami feels a great bit more grounded as a character. Aside from his crazy kung fu abilities, Yagami feels less like a superhuman figure akin to Kiryu or Majima. This portrayal of a more realistic, gritty protagonist absolutely fits with the general themes of Judgment. The supporting cast of characters is also written with the same level of care and sophistication. Small-time Yakuza clan captain Hamura makes for a compelling antagonist, whose intentions are not quite as straightforward as your typical villain. Kaito, Yagami's best friend and partner, is such a lovable character who would fit in any Yakuza game, and Issei Hoshino, the young, idealistic defense attorney, acts as a great counterweight to the jaded Yagami. I am intentionally leaving out so many other great characters. The cast across the board is excellent. The way they interact with one another, as well as the story, is just delightful. This shouldn't be surprising. The Yakuza series has always offered, at the very least, a colourful cast of engaging, endearing, and intimidating characters. However, Judgment truly stands out amongst the other games because of how well developed and complex the supporting characters are. I grew so attached to the cast, and this was because of how well defined their personalities and motivations were. The story is definitely on the slower side here, with lengthy cutscenes upwards of 15 minutes being commonplace. This isn't out of the ordinary for Yakuza, but Judgment, more so than any other title, takes its time in moving the story forward. Let me be clear now, this isn't a bad thing. Because of the excellent writing and interesting themes, Judgement was able to, in my opinion, justify a slower, more deliberate pace. And the brilliant characters kept the narrative interesting regardless. However, when the story does escalate, damn it is good. In true Yakuza fashion, there are a few big twists, but they mostly feel like earned, rewarding revelations. No, not those types of revelations. It is not a case of rubber bullets here, or long lost twins. This is because the story is so well thought out, and the many mysteries that this game presents all lead to satisfying conclusions. Developments that occur feel grounded and make sense within the context of the game, and upon going through the game a second time, I was amazed by how many reveals are teased earlier on in the game. The unravelling of who is behind the killings is the obvious highlight, but I also enjoyed finding out more about each of the characters, especially Yagami, and the many subplots that drive them. From a narrative point of view, Judgement is simply outstanding. Whilst this game shares the same universe as Yakuza, the story is welcoming to newcomers and series veterans alike. The characters are lovable, hateable, relatable, and the writing regularly retains such a high standard. I cannot overstate this enough. This is one of the best stories in gaming as a whole, and I would absolutely watch the hell out of a series like this. Nevertheless, this isn't a picture novel. This wouldn't be a good video game review if I didn't actually speak about the gameplay. It's all well and good having an amazing story. If the gameplay doesn't measure up, does that really matter? So, beyond the fantastic story and excellent cast of characters, does Judgement do enough to keep players interested for the 50 plus hours of content available? No, this is definitely not my ideal Friday night. If the story in Judgement does its best to distance itself from the outlandish scripts of Yakuza past, then the gameplay exists to remind the player this is still unashamedly a Yakuza title. As mentioned before, Kamurocho once again takes centre stage, providing a familiar funfair of minigames and odd quests, with a couple new attractions along the way. You can still visit the arcade, play various different card games, and endure the challenging baseball minigame that someone at Sega still seems to really like. The Dragon engine returns and feels more refined than ever. Sadly, favourites in bowling and pool still have yet to make a return to the new system. There are also two new minigames exclusive to Judgement. Paradise VR, a dice and cube game where Yagami moves across a virtual world, provides an opportunity for some tough fights, a variety of rewards and some mild frustration. I'll admit, it's a fairly sizable minigame, but I found the novelty did not last long. Especially frustrating was the fact that a number of key combat upgrades were locked behind this minigame. Not something new to the Yakuza series, but regressive nonetheless. The second new addition is the Drone Racing League, where, you guessed it, you race drones as you look to ascend the league ranks. I enjoyed customising my drone a lot, and the races were fun enough. Not my favourite Yakuza minigame, but a solid addition, with a good amount of content to delve into. Oh, and you can also play pinball. It's okay, not much to say there really. Whilst Judgement doesn't quite offer the depth and variety of activities found in the likes of Yakuza 0 and 5, there is still, in comparison to most other open world games, a great many hours to be lost to the game's side content. Combat is unsurprisingly a highlight. Building upon the Dragon engine system started in Yakuza 6, Judgment's combat is especially stylish, with Yagami's ability to jump off walls and perform various kung fu-like strikes, a far cry from the raw power-based moveset of series lead Kazuma Kiryu. Yagami has two combat styles, Crane and Tiger. In simple terms, Crane is a far-reaching, elegant style focused on fighting multiple groups of enemies. Tiger style, on the other hand, is a heavier, less flashy, more punchy style that is better for 1v1 encounters. Each style has their own unique heat moves, a staple of the Yakuza series, and as the game progresses, you can unlock both passive upgrades, new moves, and heat actions for each style. Sadly, the Crane style feels incredibly underdeveloped, so much so that I found myself using Tiger style for the majority of fights, regardless of if it was 1v1 or a group scenario. It was just better. It was almost in a weird way like the developers knew this, as nearly all of their significant combat upgrades are centered around the Tiger style. This is disappointing, as whilst the core combat system is really fun, There is certainly an absence of depth here that is exasperated across a 50+ hour playthrough. On the other hand, an aspect I really enjoyed about Judgement was the new friendship system. Through completing different side missions, as well as other open world activities, Yagami will begin to form friendships with the different, ever so eccentric residents of Kamurocho. Not only does this system add even greater importance to the already solid side missions, but it also offers very unique gameplay incentives. For example, certain friends will provide situational support in combat, depending on where you're fighting on the map, with frequently hilarious results. The side missions themselves are full of the usual Yakuza mix of weird, wacky and surprisingly poignant tales that add a distinct sense of character to the open world. I especially enjoyed missions that would encourage Yagami to use his detective or legal skills. One particular side quest involving an eaten cake was both hilarious and intriguing. There is also a dating element to the game, but it is relatively simple. I do wish that the detective elements of the gameplay were more engaging. The investigation of crime scenes is serviceable, but tailing missions are just as bad as they've ever been, and sadly there are so many of them. That being said, as an overall package, Judgement offers enough variety to keep the player engaged throughout the 50+ hour playthrough. While some ideas are half-baked and poorly implemented, highlights such as the excellent side cases, friendship system and solid combat do enough to keep the gameplay experience regularly entertaining. Judgement offers a gripping, well-written story, supported by a fantastic cast of characters, and plenty of gameplay variety. Not to mention, it acts as a great entry point into the weird, wonderful world of Yakuza. A strong recommendation from me. Thank you all once again for tuning into the gaming conversation. I've been a bit busy recently, but we're going to be back with way more videos coming soon, and I'm very excited for the next video where I will be discussing a very, very impactful game in Nier Replicant. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, a like would be super appreciated. If you've played Judgement or are interested, join the conversation down below and let me know what are your thoughts on it. And subscribe for more regular gaming critiques, investigations, discussions, and all that good stuff. I've been Michael JH, and absolutely enthralled by the amazing story that Judgement has to offer. Peace.